Hello there. My name is Paul Szilard from RemekTek Media, and today I'm going to investigate the use of the RODEConnect program to aggregate two RØDE NT-USB Mini microphones and how it could be used in a conference room environment like a Zoom or a Skype session around a conference table where you might have a number of people and you could have the microphones pointing to the opposite sides of the table to catch the people sitting around. This video is unsponsored. All the equipment is my own. I bought it with my own money. I'm using two Macs. One is a Intel-based MacBook Pro, which has 4 USB connections, which are required because I got 2 of them being used by the 2 microphones. One is used for an HDMI output to capture, and one is for power. I also have an M1 MacBook Air, which I'm using to control the 8M Mini Pro Extreme ISO switcher, which is what I'm using to capture what's going on. In case you're interested, the camera is a Fuji X-T4, and currently you're listening to, yes, double check, you're listening to a Rode Wireless Go 2 microphone. So what this is all about. The RØDE NT Mini USB is a great USB microphone. I love it, and apparently so do lots and lots of other people. On Apple, it was possible to aggregate 2 microphones into one, but on Windows you could only do it with a third-party program. I was successful in using, I think it's called Voice Meter, but I was excited when Rode announced their version of an aggregating program called RodeConnect for both Mac and Windows. As well as aggregating the inputs, they've included some of the features that you'd come straight out of the Rodecaster Pro deck, namely the Aphex Exciter and the Aphex Big Bottom audio enhancement. In addition, it also has a noise gate feature and, of course, microphone volume leveling. So I wanted to find out how effective these are, whether they are audible, whether they're useful, and just to satisfy my curiosity. And I thought I'll share my measurements or process in case it is of interest to viewers on the internet. I'm not doing it in a super scientific way. This is more like a real world environment. So let's switch to what's on the computer. Okay, so what we see here on the left, we'll basically be catching the screen of my Intel MacBook Pro running the RodeConnect program, which you can see on the left hand side of the screen with 2 inputs, which are the 2 NT-USB Mini microphones that I have. And then just on the right hand side I've got the Mac preferences to show you what we are, how we're configured. So the RodeConnect appears as 2 inputs, and I'm not quite clear what the second one is, but by choosing the one that produces an input, we're able to make this work. Installing the RodeConnect program, which is a free download, requires a reboot both on Windows and on Mac because it introduces a low-level virtual audio driver. I shall just demonstrate how you select the microphones. So there's very few controls. If you click on the three dots and go to Set Up Assistant, you can see up to 4 inputs are possible, and you can drag a microphone to be in or out of the aggregation. So I got 2 microphones here. When I plugged the microphones in, the program detected that a firmware upgrade was required, which it then installed in a few seconds, so that it has to be done. And then if you go to next, you got options for including system or virtual devices in the audio input. I don't need that at this moment. So I can see inputs 1 and 2. The color bars are so that you can put the optional color caps on the microphone so you can identify which one is which. As sold by Rode as a second hardware accessory, silicon colored bits that go into the cable into the microphone. I don't have those. So we can clearly see the levels. At the moment I got the 2 microphones side by side facing me, so the levels are very, very similar. What you're listening to still is my wireless microphone, so we're not recording the USB microphones. But the interface is very similar to the RODECaster Pro, with the target level shown on with these white sort of bracket marks. So ideally you want to set it up so when somebody is speaking, their volume is within that band. Anything higher and you'll run into clipping, which can be managed with a compressor. Anything lower is not desirable. You can also mute a microphone by tapping on their icon. If you click on the actual number, you'll see that you can adjust the gain over here, and then you got 4 on-off switches without any access to the parameters, so they're set by the programmer, but you can turn them on or off. So you got a noise gate, a compressor, an apex exciter, and big bottom. So basically what a noise gate does, it will silence the input for a microphone that has an input which is below the gate level. What a compressor does, it boosts low sounds and compresses loud sounds. So it's really handy if you're in an environment where you don't want the soft sounds fading into nothingness and you want to avoid clipping if somebody's speaking louder. And the apex DSP, or digital signal processing, offers us 2 options. The exciter, which is meant to give a bit of a sparkle to your voice, and the big bottom, which is giving a gentle bass boost to simulate broadcast type fullness of voice. Obviously using these will depend on the voice of your talent. Some people may or may not benefit from them. It's a personal choice, which is why we can control it. So let me know, switch over to listen to the microphones, and then we'll do some testing. Okay, so we are now listening to the audio from the Mac with the 2 microphones both facing me. First thing I shall do, I'm going to take microphone number 2 and move it about 2 feet away from my mouth and facing away so as to maximize the difference in volume. We should be able to tell by looking at the image on the screen that the second microphone level is a lot lower. And as I've got the noise gate turned on in both of them, we should get a fairly clear sound from microphone 1 and very little from microphone 2. If I give you some room noise, i.e. stay quiet, the noise gate should stop all input, and you should be able to see at the top what the microphone levels are, but down here they should go to 0 if it's below the noise gate level. And it seems to work. Now I have a ticking clock in this room, and if you observe up here you can see the clock ticking showing up, but down here it was actually nothing was showing because of the noise gate. So let me do that again. So watch the room noise up here with the clock ticking, and watch the sound being recorded. Okay, now I'm going to turn off the noise gate, and I'll go give you a bit of room noise with the clock. Splendid. Okay, let's turn this back on, and I'm now going to turn off the compressor, and before I do, I shall speak softly and then loudly, and then I'll turn the compressor off and repeat the exercise. So I'm now speaking quite softly, and see how that sounds. And I'm now speaking quite loudly, and see how that sounds. Compressor is now off, and I'm now speaking quite softly. It's just the same as before. And I'm now speaking quite loudly, same as before. Okay, I put that back, and up to now we had the exciter and the big bottom on. So let's just try without the exciter, and I'm now speaking just with the big bottom enabled, but not the exciter. And I'm now going to turn off the big bottom as well as the exciter. So this is closest to my natural sounding voice. And I'm now going to activate the exciter, and then I'm going to activate the big bottom, and that's with them both enabled. Okay. For the next test, I'm going to put the two microphones, but instead of them both facing me, they'll be facing to the left and to the right, and then I'm going to move my head to simulate different size of a room or a table. So turn microphone 1 to the left, bring in microphone 2, and I'll turn it to the right. And I'm going to just look at the levels like so. So currently the microphones are facing to my left, to my right. So I am on the side at 90 degrees to the microphones. I'm now moving to be in front of the left facing microphone. So I'm effectively in the on axis to the microphone 1, and I'm 180 degrees from microphone 2. I'm going back to the middle, and I'm now going towards the right. So just as I did before, I'm now on axis to microphone number 2 and 180 degrees to microphone number 1. And there we have it. Trying to activate the autofocus. Hello. Wake up camera. Thank you. Right, fine. The lighting here is probably not very conducive to the autofocus. I also had a bit of video. In fact, I'm going to do a bit more using my iPhone just to give an indication of the gear. So Bear with me a second. So here you can see the microphones are still in their respective sideways position. This was the Mac, the Intel-based Mac, which is doing all the RodeConnect stuff. And then on my right is the M1 Mac, which is controlling the 8M switcher, which is here, and of course the monitor, and then the camera over there. I apologize for the unprofessional setup here. I'm actually not at home or not near my studio, so this is very impromptu. I just got one light in front of me and a very basic setup, but at least it will give you an idea of a real life type use of the RodeConnect program, in this case with two NT-USB Mini microphones and the possibility of using up to 4. You don't have to use NT-USB Minis. You could use wireless microphones with an adapter, I believe, but then it would need to go into a USB input, so that may not work quite so well. I don't know actually whether you could, no, you couldn't use coaxial input. So maybe the NT-USB Mini is an ideal choice. I guess you could use the Rode Video Mic NT, was it NTG? I think it's a Video Mic NTG, which can also connect by USB. But yeah. All right, well, let me know if you could hear a big difference or any difference between the big bottom on and off and the exciter on and off, and what your thoughts were regarding this whole setup, and if there's anything else that I can do to help you decide if this is for you or not. So don't forget to put a like in if you find this helpful, so that I get an indication of what people think. Thank you for listening and watching. Enjoy the show.